for starting your week with us. Hello and welcome to Business Daily. I'm your host, Lee Ji-yoon. We have a lot lined up for you today, so let's get started by taking a look at the day's highlights. Are we seeing an end to Lotte's succession battle? Shareholders at Lotte Holdings vote in favor of current chairman Shin Dong-bin to take the group in Korea and Japan. Korea's service sector is set to have the potential to become the country's new growth engine, but it still needs a good lift to get to where the government wants it to be. The family feud over control at conglomerate Lotte Group might be inching closer to the end as shareholders of its de facto holding company voted to approve management plans proposed by current CEO Shin Dong-bin on this Monday. Our Song Ji-sun starts us off.
At a crucial extraordinary meeting held in Tokyo, Lotte Holdings shareholders backed the current CEO of the group, Shin Dong-bin, to manage the conglomerate that operates both in Korea and Japan. Approving the reform agendas proposed by the younger Shin, Lotte Holdings announced that the shareholders would like to see manage the group in a more stable and transparent way. Lotte, the country's fifth largest conglomerate, has been mired in a succession feud between the 93-year-old founder Shin Gyuk-ho's two sons. Shin Dong-bin, who oversees businesses run in Korea, has steadily built his control over both bases over the past month, while Dong-ju, who had his father's support, was removed from his post in Tokyo by the board supporting his younger brother. After winning initial approval from the shareholders at the meeting, which lasted less than an hour, the CEO also drew a clear line between company issues and family matters, and the two should not be mixed together, and that the company should be operated on the basis of law and order. Although chances are slimmer now, industry watchers say the big brother Shin Dong-ju will seek to reclaim his control, arguing that the way his younger brother grabbed the reins over the group was not legitimate. Song Ji-sun, Business Daily.
The chairman of Financial Services Commission, Im Jong-yong, has vowed to put all efforts forward so that Koreans can feel the effects of financial reforms by the end of this year. The chairman emphasized that the voices of financial consumers, like individuals and businesses, need to be reflected when drawing up policies, and called for deregulations that will make financial activities more convenient. The Financial Services Commission and Financial Supervisory Service launched an on-site support group starting Monday to improve practices in the financial community and reflect opinions from the field. The government will mull over liberalizing the use of the Korean currency, the won, in offshore transactions. The Ministry of Strategy and Finance said it will create a task force later this month to consider allowing the won to be used in international trade. It will also examine authorizing direct purchases of won-denominated stocks and bonds in overseas markets without reporting it to Korea's central bank. Currently, the won is blocked from such dealings on concerns that it would destabilize the currency. The ministry said while the need to raise the won's stature is there, the easing, if green-lit, will likely come in stages. Korea's third largest conglomerate, SK Group, plans to extend a new wage peak system to all of its business units by next year, in line with the government's efforts to reform the labor market. About 90% of the group's arms have already adopted or are in the process of implementing the new policy. The system allows employees nearing a retirement age to continue working until 60 under a gradually decreasing salary. The money saved is then directed to hiring young workers. The government has been urging companies to introduce the system, which aims to promote job security for the younger and older workforce. Samsung and Hyundai Motor Group have also decided to adopt the wage plan within the next 2 years. LG, Lotte Group, and POSCO have already implemented the system at most of their divisions, and they plan to fully enforce it by the end of next year. More and more people around the world are now using smartphones, and one sector seems to be making quite a bit of profit from this, the mobile advertising market. However, some are warning of developments that might end up challenging this mobile advertising boom. Our Kim In-ji has this report.
The global mobile advertisement market is reaping the profits. According to a joint report by IAB Europe and IHS Technology, the revenue from the global mobile advertisement market amounted to $31.9 billion in 2014. That's up nearly 65% from the previous year. By segment, mobile display generated nearly half of the revenue, or $15.1 billion. It was followed by mobile search with 46% and messaging with 7% share. The North American region accounted for the biggest proportion of the market at about 45%, or $14.3 billion. It was followed by the Asia-Pacific region at nearly 37% and Europe at about 17%. But, posing a possible threat to the market, a separate report says ad-blocking software could cost online publishers losses of over $20 billion in revenue this year. Currently, nearly 200 million people worldwide are using ad blockers online, which is an increase of more than 40% from June last year. The report warned of a game-changer this fall when Apple launches its iOS 9, a new mobile operating system. It will allow the development of ad-blocking apps supported by mobile Safari, which currently makes up more than half of the global mobile browsing market. Kim Min-ji, Business Daily.
And aside from mobile advertising boom, smartphone applications and computer programs also weave in and out of our daily lives these days. And there's a debate brewing over their patent protection, or rather, their lack of it. Our Eunice Kim has the story for us.
This company in Korea has a track record of 25 years. Starting off as a humble startup, it's established itself as a solid firm, bringing home sales of 80 billion won or nearly $68 million.
Post-2011, content overtook packaging. Accordingly, our products were bought and downloaded online. Our sales quadrupled in about 2 years.
With the changing distribution structure for software, patent protection on their virtual products has surfaced as a topic of debate. Current laws only prosecute those who copy programs and pass them on via a physical medium, such as a DVD or external hard drive. Protection is not extended to programs that are forwarded or downloaded online. So that means even if a hacker gets his or her hands on a program, replicates it, and distributes it online, there is no clear infringement.
It's a key time for us to protect the technologies that we create on the global market. It's important to make a new patent system that can protect software on the World Wide Web.
But there's also resistance. Those voices say keeping software development in an open market of ideas has been critical in its growth, and boarding that up with patents would only take the sector back.
Software is considered the success story of the open innovation platform, so enforcing patent laws can actually have the negative effect of inhibiting future growth.
And as hardware evolves, the value consumers put on software is shifting as well. With this debate ongoing, one thing that remains important is keeping the end user in mind. Eunice Kim, Business Daily.
And now let's get a quick check on how the markets fared here in Seoul today. Seoul shares dropped on this Monday as jitters over another yuan devaluation lingered, prodding investors into dumping risky assets. Meanwhile, Samsung Electronics shares dipped to a 10-month low on Monday as its new high-end smartphones with wider screens unveiled last week failed to offset a negative outlook on its mobile business. At the closing bell, the benchmark Kospi was down 0.75%, finishing the day at 1968.52. While the tech-heavy Kosdaq also dropped 1.28% to end at 722.01. On the foreign exchange counter, the Korean currency lost ground against the greenback, ending at 1,183.1 won. We With Korea's manufacturing sector losing steam, there's a field that the government and economists say that the country should be focusing more on, and that's the service sector, namely businesses involving tourism, medical services, finance, or education, with experts saying the sector has the potential to become Korea's new main growth engine. Why that is and what difficulties lay ahead, we have our Kwon So-ah joining us today to tell us more. Hello, So-ah.
At your service, June.
All right, so just recently, President Park Geun-hye unveiled plans to give the service sector a boost. How has that been going?
Well, considering that 70% of Korea's eligible workers work in the service sector, the proportion of the sector to GDP is just at 59%. So yes, it's been a topic of discussion to pull up this proportion up higher, and it seems like the government doesn't want to waste any more time in, accomplishing this. So let's take a look at what services could need a good amount of lift up and how this will contribute to the economy.
Korea's medical, education, culture, and tourism fronts, all part of the service sector, are not considered weaker than the automobile, semiconductor, ship, and steel industries, all part of the manufacturing sector. But they've definitely not been as economically beneficial. This is mainly because Korea's growth policies were heavily based on trade and manufacturing until the 90s.
By around 1990, many manufacturing operations were relocated abroad to cut labor costs. That was about the starting point for the service sector's rapid growth. Although it's big in size now, the sector is not systemized enough.
Take the medical industry as an example. Dr. Do Jae-un, a dermatologist and the director of a plastic surgery clinic, says Korea's medical industry today has reached a level that brings patients in from even more developed countries. This is especially as cosmetic treatments, such as the so-called petite procedures that do not involve going under the knife, gain more popularity. The boom is thanks to Korea's strong reputation when it comes to aesthetics, advanced technologies, and affordable prices that also helped the country export its medical services around the world. But strict barriers continue to hinder growth, as the scope of legally authorized procedures remains relatively narrow. This sometimes leads to licensed doctors turning to options outside of legal boundaries.
Let's say there have been side effects from a surgery. It shouldn't be the priority to point the finger at the doctor in charge, but to solve the problem as fast as possible. But that's where government policies are lacking.
Another service sector that's being held up from growth is the wedding tourism industry, which have been welcoming an increasing number of foreigners coming in for wedding photo shoots of high quality and polished looks.
In China, in the first half of the year alone, a record 9.8 million people got married. That's why we need to bring in more Chinese wedding tourists. But compared to other customers from places like Singapore and Taiwan, it's much more difficult for Chinese to receive a visa.
These obstacles in the medical and tourism industry are just the tip of the iceberg. That's why President Park Geun-hye recently called for the so-called Service Sector Industry Development Basic Act to be passed. By doing so, the public and private sector would be able to establish a joint committee to implement strategic plans to support the industry. Once passed, the Park administration expects a number of unnecessary regulations will be lifted and investment increased, leading to almost 700,000 new jobs and a jump of up to 0.5 percentage point in economic growth by 2030. The government also emphasizes the collaboration of services with information communications technology will largely contribute to future businesses, including financial services like fintech and education services.
In the past, education was about the content or curriculum and a service that's attached to it, right? But now, in the 21st century, with the significance of IT, it's no longer just about that anymore, right? It's actually about the platform, right, and the system. So, and I think that's where most likely where Korea can actually thrive, because it's a $1 trillion market, yet there's no clear-cut winner, and this actually includes players like Google and Apple.
So experts say with this potential and an already large workforce, it's now time to focus on how to get different companies within the service sector to work together, not only to raise the quantity but quality of Korea's services.
So there are numerous businesses that could expand into bigger realms of growth, but looking at the big picture, if the shift toward the service sector works out, then it would definitely make a huge difference for the entire economy.
Right, and those who support the shift are saying that it is inevitable as the industrial ecology has been changing throughout the years. And they're also saying that there is a limitation to creating new jobs in the manufacturing sector. Just taking the ship industry as an example, they had to actually cut employers. So how could they even create new jobs there? So, and also developed countries like the US and UK have already made that shift successfully, with up to 80% accounting for the service industry.
But then those are some of the biggest economies in the world. So couldn't it possibly pose problems for Korea as it tries to model these after these countries?
Yes, that's why experts are actually saying that why turn towards a totally new growth engine when we could rather actually try to recover what we're already best at.
All right, so I guess a lot of this could depend on related bills, if they're passed or not, and also how soon these reforms will be implemented.
Exactly.
All right, thank you so much for coming in today, Soa.
Anytime.
And that wraps it up for today, but we'll be back tomorrow with more at the same time, same place, so don't forget to tune in then. Thanks for watching, and have a great start to your week, everyone.